I never thought a simple Christmas dinner would change the way I see my son and his wife forever. It was Christmas Eve, and I had been invited to spend the holidays at my son Daniel's mansion. The house itself looked like something out of a magazine, shimmering lights wrapped around towering pillars, a grand tree glittering with ornaments that probably cost more than my entire living room furniture, and a warm golden glow spilling from every window. I couldn't help but feel proud of him. My boy, the same kid I once dressed in hand-me-downs and packed sandwiches for, was now a billionaire with a life most people could only dream of. I arrived with a small tin of homemade cookies, my humble contribution to their extravagant feast. The moment I stepped inside, I was met with the sound of laughter, clinking glasses, and the faint scent of cinnamon and roasted turkey. Family and friends were scattered across the huge living room, some sitting near the crackling fireplace, others marveling at the mountain of presents piled high beneath the tree. Daniel greeted me with his usual warmth, hugging me tightly and whispering, "Merry Christmas, Mom. I'm so glad you're here." That simple gesture filled my heart more than any mansion or luxury could. His wife, Emily, was polite as always, smiling and giving me a light kiss on the cheek. She had always been cordial, though never exactly warm. I often told myself that was just her nature. We settled into the dining room, the long mahogany table set with fine china and crystal glasses. I found myself sandwiched between my grandkids, who eagerly showed me their stockings and Christmas drawings. I felt blessed in that moment, just to be part of their lives, to see the sparkle in their eyes. Then, in the middle of passing around the mashed potatoes, Daniel leaned back in his chair and looked directly at me with a curious smile. "So, Mom," he asked casually, "did you get your 8,000 allowance this month?" The fork nearly slipped from my hand. I blinked at him, certain I had misheard. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, my what?" He chuckled softly, as if reminding me of something I'd forgotten. "Your allowance. The 8,000 I've been sending you every month." "You got it, right." For a moment, I was frozen, the room suddenly quieter in my ears, the laughter around me fading into a dull hum. My eyes darted to Emily, my daughter-in-law, who had just lifted her wine glass. Her face drained of color so quickly it was as if the blood had been sucked right out of her. She froze mid-motion, eyes wide, lips slightly parted, but she said nothing. And that's when my stomach sank. Something was terribly wrong. To understand why my son's words hit me like a bolt of lightning, you need to know a little about our family. I didn't grow up with much. And neither did Daniel. His father and I lived paycheck to paycheck in a small, two-bedroom house. We made do with what we had, sometimes stretching a single chicken to last 3 meals, sometimes skipping our own needs so Daniel could have new shoes for school. Life was never easy. But we were happy. Love was our wealth. And Daniel was our greatest treasure. From the time he was little, he showed a drive I couldn't always understand but always admired. While other kids played outside, Daniel was inside sketching ideas for inventions or reading books way beyond his grade level. He used to tell me, "One day, Mom, I'm going to make enough money so you'll never have to worry again." I'd laugh, pat his head, and tell him, "Just promise me you'll be happy, sweetheart." And somehow, he made good on that childhood vow. After college, he built a tech company from scratch. I'll admit, I didn't understand half of what he was doing. But in just a few short years, he became a billionaire. Suddenly, the boy who once wore thrift store clothes was being featured on magazine covers, giving interviews, and moving into homes with marble floors and chandeliers the size of cars. I was proud, of course. But I also felt out of place. His world was so different from mine. And I never wanted him to think I expected anything from him. He had earned his fortune with hard work and brilliance. I was just his mom, happy to live quietly in my modest house, surrounded by my garden and memories. Which brings me to Emily, my daughter-in-law. The first time Daniel brought her home, I knew she wasn't like us. She was beautiful, polished, and came from money herself. Her nails were always perfectly manicured, her clothes designer. She spoke with an air of sophistication that made me feel clumsy and plain. Still, I wanted to like her, for Daniel's sake. He seemed so in love, so sure she was the one. Our relationship over the years was polite. She wasn't unkind. But there was a distance, an invisible wall I could never break through. She never called me Mom, never asked much about my life, never visited unless Daniel was with her. And yet, she always smiled, one of those polite, practiced smiles that revealed nothing. So when Daniel invited me to spend Christmas at their mansion, I accepted happily. Though a part of me worried I might be intruding on their world of extravagance. And extravagant it was. From the moment I stepped inside, I felt like I'd wandered into a palace. A 12-foot Christmas tree sparkled in the grand foyer, decorated with ornaments that probably cost more than my monthly pension. The air smelled faintly of vanilla and pine, the kind of holiday scent you buy in expensive candles. Staff moved quietly in the background, making sure everything was perfect. I tried not to let it overwhelm me. I reminded myself that at the heart of all this, it was still just Christmas, a time for family, for love, for togetherness. I brought my cookies, hugged my grandkids, and told myself this was enough. And then came that moment at dinner. Daniel's words, "Did you get your 8,000 allowance this month?" still echoed in my head. I had no idea what he meant. I never received a single dollar from him, let alone thousands. I lived modestly on my own small income, budgeting carefully, never wanting to ask for help. But the way Emily froze, the way her smile cracked and her hand trembled around her wine glass, that told me everything I needed to know. For a moment, time stood still. The clinking of silverware against fine china, the chatter of guests, even the crackling of the fire seemed to fade into silence. All I could hear was my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I set my fork down gently, trying to mask the tremor in my hand. "Allowance," I repeated softly, searching Daniel's face for answers. He smiled at me like I'd forgotten something obvious, like a mother forgetting her own birthday. "Yeah, Mom," he said casually, sipping from his glass of wine. "The $8,000 I've been transferring to you every month. I wanted to make sure you're comfortable, that you don't ever have to stress about money again." I blinked. My throat tightened. And I forced a laugh. And it came out shaky. "Sweetheart, I think you're mistaken. I've never received any money from you. Not ever." The air seemed to grow colder. Daniel's brows furrowed, his fork pausing mid-air. "What do you mean?" "I set it up almost 2 years ago. Automatic transfers. Every month, on the 1st. I shook my head slowly, confusion washing over me. "No, darling. I would know. I live on my pension. I've never seen a single transfer." Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Emily. Her wine glass hovered near her lips. But she wasn't drinking. Her face had gone pale, her eyes wide as though someone had ripped the ground from beneath her feet. When she realized I was looking at her, she quickly lowered her gaze to her plate, stabbing a piece of asparagus as though it were suddenly the most fascinating thing in the world. Daniel didn't notice, at least not yet. He leaned forward, concern etched on his face. "Mom, are you serious? You've never seen the money. $8,000 a month, 2 years of payments, that's almost $200,000. My stomach turned. $200,000. More money than I'd ever seen in my life. And I had no idea where it had gone. I tried to keep my voice steady. "No, Daniel. I swear to you, I've never received a cent. If I had, don't you think I would have said something? Don't you think I'd have thanked you?" His eyes flickered then, past me, toward Emily. And I saw it. That tiny, fleeting shift in his gaze. The way his smile faltered, just slightly. The way Emily's hand tightened around her fork until her knuckles went white. The children, oblivious to the tension, giggled at the other end of the table, talking about Santa and presents. But for the adults, the room felt heavy, suffocating. Daniel's voice dropped lower, firmer. Emily. Her head snapped up. Yes, she said, a little too quickly, a little too brightly. You've been handling most of our accounts, haven't you? Her smile trembled at the edges. Well, yes, but, you know, only the basics. Bills, household expenses, his eyes narrowed. And the transfers to my mom. The question hung in the air like a blade. Emily's lips parted. But no sound came out. She glanced at me. Then back at Daniel, her face flushing crimson. Finally, she set her fork down with a sharp clink. Daniel, maybe we shouldn't do this here. It's Christmas. Her words were soft. But the tremor in her voice betrayed her. That was the moment the warmth of the evening shattered. Guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Daniel's jaw tightened, his easy smile gone. He looked from me to Emily, suspicion hardening in his eyes. Emily, answer me. Did you intercept the money? The silence stretched unbearably long. Even the children seemed to sense something was wrong. My youngest granddaughter looked up at me with wide eyes and whispered, Grandma, are you okay? I squeezed her hand gently, forcing a smile I didn't feel. Finally, Emily spoke, barely above a whisper. Daniel, please, not in front of everyone. And with that, the dam of suspicion broke. Daniel set his wine glass down with a sharp clink that echoed across the long dining table. His expression, once calm and light-hearted, had turned into something steely, unreadable. I'd seen that face before, when he was a little boy and caught someone lying on the playground. Even then, he had never tolerated dishonesty. Emily, he said slowly, his voice calm but firm, tell me the truth. Did the money ever reach my mother? Emily's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her napkin, dabbing at her lips though she hadn't eaten a bite. Daniel, it's Christmas Eve, she whispered. Do we really need to drag this up now? Yes, he snapped, sharper than I'd ever heard him speak to her. We do? My mother says she never received a cent. And I've been transferring thousands every month. So I'll ask you again, where is the money? The table had fallen utterly silent. Guests glanced at one another nervously, the children fidgeting, sensing the tension but not understanding it. My heart ached. This wasn't how I wanted Christmas to go. But I also knew this was no misunderstanding. I could feel it in my bones. Emily swallowed hard, her carefully painted mask slipping. Daniel, you don't understand. I wasn't stealing. I was just managing things. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Managing things? She hesitated. Then blurted out in a rush, I thought it was unnecessary. Your mother lives modestly, she doesn't need that kind of money. And we have expenses, Daniel, enormous expenses. Do you know how much it costs to maintain this house, to keep up with appearances? I thought it was better for the family if I redirected the funds. Her words hung in the air like poison. I stared at her, my chest tightening. Redirected? I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. You mean, you took it? Her head whipped toward me, her eyes flashing defensively. Don't make it sound so ugly. It wasn't about greed, it was about protecting our lifestyle, our reputation. Daniel works so hard. And we can't afford to look careless with money. Giving away nearly $100,000 a year for no reason, what would people think? The sting of her words hit harder than I expected. For no reason. As though I were some nameless stranger, not the woman who raised him, sacrificed for him, loved him more than anything in the world. Daniel pushed his chair back, his face red with fury. Are you kidding me, Emily. That money was for my mother. I set it up for her. It wasn't yours to touch. Her composure cracked completely then. She shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. Daniel, please, you don't understand. I was just trying to protect us. Your mom doesn't need the money, she lives fine on her pension. You thought wrong, he cut in, his voice thunderous now. You went behind my back. You lied. You let my mother live thinking I didn't care enough to help her. When all along I was sending money she never saw. Do you have any idea how betrayed I feel right now? The children had gone quiet, their wide eyes darting between their parents. I wanted to shield them from this, to shield everyone. I raised a trembling hand. Daniel, please. Stop. I don't need the money. I never wanted it. I never expected anything from you. But he turned to me, his voice softening only slightly. Mom, it's not about the money. It's about trust. About respect. I promised myself you'd never want for anything. And he broke off, glaring at Emily again. She robbed you of that. She robbed us both. Emily's tears spilled then, streaking her flawless makeup. I made a mistake, she whispered. I thought I was doing the right thing. But no one at the table seemed convinced, not even her. I sat frozen, my heart breaking for them both. I never wanted to be the cause of conflict in their marriage. And yet, here we were, on Christmas Eve, with the truth laid bare for all to see. My daughter-in-law had intercepted every penny of the money meant for me. And for the first time in years, I saw my son look at his wife not with love, but with something else entirely. Something dangerously close to hatred. The room had grown unbearably tense. Even the glow of the Christmas lights seemed dimmer, their twinkle mocking the sudden darkness that had fallen over our gathering. Daniel leaned forward, his hands pressed against the table, his voice low and seething. 2 years, Emily. 2 years I thought I was helping my mother. 2 years you let me believe she was secure, comfortable. And all that time, you were pocketing the money. Emily shook her head frantically. No, not pocketing. I wasn't spending it frivolously. I redirected it to joint accounts, to investments. It all went toward our future. Toward this family. Daniel's laugh was sharp, bitter. Our future. At the cost of betraying my mother. Guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. My brother, who had come along to celebrate, cleared his throat as if to speak but thought better of it. My sister-in-law pulled the children away from the table gently, murmuring something about showing them their gifts early. The children obeyed reluctantly, glancing back with wide eyes. The adults were left staring at one another, trapped in the wreckage of what was supposed to be a joyful evening. I felt sick. This wasn't the family Christmas I had imagined. I had come here with cookies and a heart full of love, not to be the spark that ignited such a firestorm. Daniel, I said softly, reaching for his hand, please, let it go. I don't want this to tear you apart. I never asked for that money. I never expected it. What matters is that we're here together. As a family. But he pulled his hand back, his jaw tightening. Mom, you don't understand. It's not about whether you ask for it or not. It's about honesty. About the fact that she lied to me for years. Emily's voice cracked as she leaned toward him. I wasn't lying, Daniel. I was protecting us. You give and give, always trying to take care of everyone. And I thought if I step in, I could keep us from bleeding money. I wanted to protect our life, our kids' future. By betraying me, he shot back, his voice like thunder. By making my mother live thinking I never cared enough to support her. Do you have any idea how cruel that was? Her face crumpled. And she reached for him. And he jerked away. The space between them felt like a canyon, widening by the second. I felt torn apart, caught between them. I didn't want to see my son's marriage unravel, not because of me. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore the sting of Emily's words, the insult buried in her justification. She doesn't need it. As if my worth could be measured only in dollars. As if my sacrifices, my years of raising Daniel with love and care, had been erased with the flick of her manicured hand. Finally, my brother spoke up, his voice cutting through the tension. Daniel, son, maybe this isn't the time. Emotions are high. And we don't want to ruin Christmas for the little ones. But Daniel only shook his head. This isn't about Christmas. This is about trust. And right now, I don't know if I can trust my own wife. Emily gasped, fresh tears spilling. Don't say that. Please, don't say that. But I saw it in his eyes. Something had broken. Something that might never be mended. I wanted to cry, to scream, to beg them both to stop. Instead, I sat there silently, my heart torn in two. On one side was my son, furious and betrayed. On the other, his wife, guilty and desperate. And in the middle, me, the mother who never wanted any of this. Christmas had always been about family, about joy and togetherness. But that night, the glittering tree and the sparkling lights felt hollow. Beneath the laughter of children opening presents, a deeper wound had been laid bare, a wound that money couldn't heal. And as I looked at Emily's tear-streaked face and Daniel's hardened eyes, I realized something chilling. No matter how this ended, our family would never be the same again. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. No one at the table dared to speak. As though any sound might shatter what little remained of the fragile peace. Daniel leaned back slowly, his eyes fixed on Emily, his expression unreadable now. The raw anger in his voice had cooled. But that made it all the more frightening. You had 2 years, Emily. 2 years to tell me the truth. 2 years to admit what you were doing. Why didn't you? Emily wiped at her cheeks, mascara smudging. Her voice was hoarse, broken. Because I was afraid, she whispered. Afraid you'd see me as selfish. Afraid you'd think I didn't care about your mom. Afraid that if I told you, she broke off, her shoulders shaking. I thought I was protecting us. But maybe. I was just protecting myself. Daniel's face softened for a fleeting second. But then the hurt returned, deeper than before. He glanced at me, his eyes pained. Mom, I am so sorry. You were living modestly while I thought you had the support you needed. All this time, I thought I was fulfilling the promise I made to you as a boy. But I failed you. I reached across the table, my hand trembling as it touched his. No, Daniel. You didn't fail me. You've given me more than I ever dreamed, a good life, your love, your success. I never wanted your money. I only wanted to see you happy. Emily sniffled, her eyes darting between us desperately. I know I've hurt you both. I can't undo what I did. But please, Daniel, please don't let this destroy us. Don't let one mistake end everything we've built together. The room was silent again, all eyes on the two of them. Daniel sighed heavily, rubbing his temples as though the weight of the world pressed down on him. I don't know if I can just forgive this, Emily. Trust once broken, it's not easy to rebuild. Emily leaned forward, her hands clasped tightly. Then let me prove it. Set up the transfers directly, so I can't touch them. I won't come near your mom's money again. I'll go to counseling, I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't give up on me. For the first time all evening, her voice carried no polish, no practiced grace. It was raw, pleading, human. Daniel studied her for a long, agonizing moment. Then he turned to me. As though searching for my guidance. And in that instant, I realized the truth, this decision wasn't about me. It was about them, their marriage, their trust, their future. So I spoke softly, carefully. Son, love is tested in ways we don't always expect. What Emily did hurt, yes. But if you believe there's still love between you, then maybe it's worth trying to mend. Not for appearances, not for money, but for your children, for your family. Only you can decide if her remorse is enough. Daniel's eyes glistened. He looked back at Emily, who was trembling, waiting for his verdict. Finally, he exhaled, long and slow. I can't promise things will go back to the way they were. But I'll give us a chance, one chance. On my terms. And if you ever betray me again, his voice hardened. It will be the end. Emily nodded furiously, tears streaming down her cheeks. Thank you, Daniel. I swear, I'll make this right. The tension in the room eased. Though only slightly. The wound was still fresh, the scar not yet formed. But a path forward, however uncertain, had been chosen. I sat back, letting out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. My heart ached. But it also felt lighter somehow. The truth had come out. Secrets had been exposed. And though the night was far from perfect, perhaps it was the beginning of something more honest. As the children returned, giggling and showing off their new toys, I forced myself to smile. Christmas had always been about family, not the flawless, picture-perfect kind. But the real kind. Messy, painful, complicated. And as I watched my son pull his wife into a tentative embrace, I thought to myself, so maybe this Christmas wasn't ruined after all. Maybe it was the start of healing. That Christmas will live in my memory forever. Though not for the reasons I once imagined. When I walked into my son's mansion that evening, I expected warmth, laughter, and the comfort of family. I never imagined that within a few hours, old wounds would be opened, secrets exposed, and hearts broken. And yet, as painful as it was, I believe it was necessary. For 2 years, I lived my quiet life, believing my son's success was something far away from me, something I admired but never relied upon. I budgeted, I stretched my pension, I made do, as I had all my life. But during that time, Daniel lived believing he was fulfilling his promise to me, giving me comfort and security. We were both living a lie we didn't even know existed. And at the center of it all was Emily, my daughter-in-law. For so long, I couldn't quite place what it was about her that felt distant, unreachable. Now I understand, she was hiding a part of herself, a fear, a desperation to control the image of their perfect life. She made choices that hurt us deeply, choices that shattered trust. But I also saw, in her tears that night, something real, regret. And perhaps, just perhaps, regret can be the first step toward change. What I learned is this: money may buy comfort, security, even luxury. But it cannot buy honesty. It cannot replace trust. And it cannot heal betrayal. Those things come only from love, forgiveness, and the willingness to face the truth, no matter how ugly it may be. As for Daniel, my heart ached for him most of all. My brilliant son, who built his empire with determination and vision, sat across from me that night not as a billionaire, but as a boy again, hurt, confused, searching for guidance. And I realized that no matter how much money he earned, no matter how powerful he became, he would always need the one thing I could still give him freely, a mother's love. That night did not end with carols around the fire or picture-perfect family photos. It ended with quiet tears, tentative apologies, and an uncertain hope for tomorrow. But in its own way, maybe that was the truest kind of Christmas. Not flawless, not easy, but real. So, when I look back on that evening, I do not see it as a ruined holiday. I see it as a turning point. The moment my son saw the cracks in his perfect world. The moment Emily faced the consequences of her choices. The moment I understood that love sometimes means stepping back and letting others learn their own lessons. And as I held my grandchildren close, listening to their laughter echo through the halls, I whispered a silent prayer that one day, they would grow to understand what I had learned that night. That family is not built on wealth, or appearances, or even tradition. It is built on truth. And sometimes, the greatest gift you can give or receive is simply the chance to begin again.